Okay, good. Good morning. My name is Gord Perks. I am the chair of the Toronto East York Community Council. The clerk has confirmed that we have quorum present, so I'd like to now call meeting 22 to order. Welcome, everyone. Today's meeting is being held with members of council participating both in person and by video conference. City staff are also connected to the meeting by video conference. As City Hall remains closed, the public continue to participate electronically and can watch the meeting streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com, Toronto City Council Live. I ask everyone with their patience with any delays and technical issues. And members, please be aware, because of the severity of the pandemic right now, we are operating with only myself and 2 clerks present at the meeting. Everyone else is virtual. So it will be potentially even more clunky than we're used to. The clerk staff have connected all registered speakers to the meeting by audio. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the Toronto East York Community Council page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. Clerk's IT staff will also be available to assist members with their devices. I would like to remind staff to keep their microphones muted and their videos turned off unless they need to answer questions or speak to the committee. This will make it easier for me as chair and for those watching on YouTube to observe members as they participate in the debate and vote on items. For those members joining remotely, please keep your microphones muted unless you wish to question staff or speak to an item, and ensure that your video remains on. As part of each agenda item, I will ask members to raise their hands or unmute their microphones if they wish to question staff or speak. I will then create a speakers list and will call on members when it is their turn to speak. When voting on an item or motion, I ask that members ensure they turn on their video if applicable and to raise their hands to indicate their vote. Members, I want to remind you that you must submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at teycc@toronto.ca to help with motions. If there are any visiting members of council attending the meeting today, I encourage you to turn on your video so that I know you are present and can give you the opportunity to ask questions of staff or to speak. This will assist the clerk's staff to record the attendance for the meeting. Although we are in different locations and meeting remotely today, the Community Council would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Bradford.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to declare an interest on an item, and that is item number TE22.20, realignment of permit parking area 8D.
Councillor Bradford, could you move your microphone closer?
Yes. Just saying, Mr. Chair, I'd like to declare an interest on TE22.20. It's the realignment of permit parking area 8D to exclude the development located at 1327, 1339 Queen Street East. The nature of my interest is that my partner is a planner on this file, and I've submitted all the paperwork, the conflict of interest forms on this item to clerks.
Thank you. Any other declarations of interest? Seeing none, can I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our last meeting, December 2nd, 2020? Councillor Cressy. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, members, we have, I believe it's 25 items on the agenda today, or we're going to have some additional business as well. We are going to begin our agenda rundown at item number 22.10, appointments to business improvement areas, boards of management. Councillor Cressy. All those in favor, opposed, carried. TE 22.11, 1405, 1407, 1409, and 1409A Bloor Street West, and 229, 231, and 231A Sterling Road Official Plan and Zoning Amendment Application Preliminary Report. Councillor Bailão.
Thank you. I just have a few questions to staff, so I'd like to just help this item down.
Okay, we'll hold that in your name. Item TE 22.12, 11 Bay Street, Zoning Amendment Application Preliminary Report. Councillor Cressy.
I can move the staff recommendations. Thank you.
All those in favor, opposed, that carries. Item TE 22.13, 58 Linsmore Crescent, update on tree bylaw compliance efforts. Is that Councillor?
Mine, Councillor Burke.
Yes, Councillor Fletcher?
Yes, I'll move the staff recommendation to receive for information and thank the staff for looking into this matter. It was hard. It took a long time to get this sorted out. I think about 3 months, but it has finally been. So thank you very much, Durban Forestry.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Item TE 22.13, 58 I just did that one. Item TE 22.14, Assumption of Services West Donlands Phase 2 Subdivision Registered Plan Number 66M 2488. Is that Councillor Bradford? No, Councillor Councillor Wong-Tam, sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good morning, councillors. I'd like to move the staff recommendations, please.
Okay, all those in favor, opposed, carried. We have a speaker on item 15. Item TE 22.16, installation of on-street accessible parking spaces, December 2020. Delegated. Sorry, I've got two different documents with different information on them. Councillor Bailão.
Staff recommendations.
All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item TE 22.17, parking amendments, Melville Avenue between Shaw Street and Christie Street. Councillor Layton.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I hope my staff has sent the motion of deferral. We still don't have a petition from the residents to justify the poll.
Okay, well, just give me 1 second. No?
I think we'll probably have to do it to 2 meetings if we just want to avoid it at the next one.
Yes, so the March meeting, do we have a meeting in March?
No, we have one in February.
April's fine.
April. April's fine?
April's fine.
Okay, so we'll defer it to the April meeting. All those in favor? Opposed?
Yeah.
Carried. Thank you. Item 22.18, extension of permit parking hours, Shaw Street. Councillor Layton.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. To move the recommendations in the report.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item TE 22.19, realignment of permit parking area 8D to exclude the development located at 1285 Queen Street East. Councillor Fletcher.
Yes, moving that, Mr. Chair. And add notice of the requirement drafted. City Legal has now drafted a requirement so that it's when you go to buy something that you understand what you're buying.
Very good.
I believe the clerks have that.
That's quite helpful. Okay, Councillor Bradford, if you could step away for a moment.
That's not the one.
We just
But
did
are you-
all
okay.
those in favor on 19, opposed, carried. Okay.
Oh, 19, yes.
Yes. Now
Including that.
Thank you. Councillor Bradford is not present now. Item TE 22.20, realignment of permit parking area 8D to exclude the development located at 1327 through 1339 Queen Street East. Councillor Fletcher.
Yes, and if that could be shown, please, that motion, because this is actually where City Legal have now drafted that, because this wasn't my ward previously, and this wasn't done, so I'm having to do this after. But everyone needs to know. I've never approved a condominium that didn't have the parking prescribed, so that it's not overwhelming the neighborhoods. So this is what's here. Thank you very much. I'd like a recorded vote.
Okay, taking it all as a package, I'm going to have a recorded vote. All those in favor? Just wait for my screen. Councillor Fletcher, Councillor Bailao, Councillor Wong Tam, Councillor Cressy, stop yawning, Councillor Matlow, and Councillor Layton. Okay?
And yourself.
And myself and the chair. If we could alert Councillor Bradford that he can rejoin us now. There you are. Welcome back, Councillor Bradford. You were missed. Item TE 22.21, Waterfront Neighborhood Center Board appointments. Councillor Cressy.
I'll move the staff recommendations, please.
All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item TE 22.22, Traffic Management Plan, Glen Road. Councillor Layton.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. I believe these are some technical amendments to the work that has already been done. So I'll move the recommendations in the report.
All those in favor, opposed, that carries. Item TE 22.2.
Sorry, Councillor, I'm sorry, we had to add 22 as new business to begin, which is number
Sorry, so 22 should not be on the
Oh.
agenda?
22 is new business, so we need to add them first.
Ah,
Sorry
okay.
about that. I thought we started at 23.
Okay, so members, I'm told that there was an error, that item 22 was new business. So if I could have a motion to introduce items 22 through 28. Councillor Fletcher, all those in favor, opposed, carried. So now I will call item 2222, Traffic Management Plan, Glen Road. Councillor Layton.
Yes, I think I've already, I'll introduce the report again and move the recommendations.
So on the recommendations in the letter, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 2223, traffic calming Rains Avenue. Councillor Matlow.
I move the recommendation and support.
Okay, on the recommendations in the letter, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 2223, oh no, 24, Goff Avenue, speed.
Sorry.
Are you
That's
laughing at
mine,
me?
Councillor.
Yes, I know.
That's mine, Councillor.
I know.
Yes, I'd like to move the approval. I think the motion is there.
On the Goff Avenue speed humps.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's me.
All those in favor of the recommendation in the letter? Opposed, if any, that carries. Item 22.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Item 2225, extending permit parking hours on Springdale Boulevard. Councillor Bradford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move the recommendations in my letter.
All those in favor of the recommendations in the letter? Opposed, that carries. Item TE 2226, parking amendments, St. Helens Avenue, Lumbervale Avenue, and College Street North. Councillor Bailao.
Move recommendations in the letter.
All those in favor, opposed, that carries. Item 2227, westbound left turn advance feature, Lansdowne Avenue at Wallace Avenue, and through traffic rush hour restriction. Councillor Bailao.
Move recommendations in the letter.
All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item TE 2228, 350 Vaughan Road, amendment to bylaws numbers 108, 2017, and 109, 2017. Councillor Matlow.
Move the letter's recommendation.
All those in favor, opposed, that carries. So we will return now to item 1. which is the permanent closure of a portion of the western terminus of Randolph Avenue. We have no deputants listed on this item. Councillor Bailao?
I believe that clerks has a motion to defer this item.
Okay, all those in favor of the deferral, if I can see the members. Opposed, that carries. Item TE 22.2, naming of an existing public lane south of Eglinton Avenue West, extending between Flanders Road and Westover Hill Road. There are no deputants listed. Councillor Matlow, I'm told you're moving a deferral?
I've been requested by staff to do so, given the need for public notice. So yes.
Okay, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Item TE 22.3, naming of a private lane located north of Dundas Street East, extending between Sumac Street and River Street. Councillor Wong Tam, I understand you two are going to be moving a deferral?
Yes, thank you very much. The motion is asking for deferral to be moved to February meeting, the TYCC.
Okay, all those in favor of deferring till February, opposed, that carries. Item TE 22.4, 53, 55, and 95 Lakeshore Boulevard East, 15, 33, and 43 Freeland Street, and 2 and 15 Cooper Street subdivision application final report. I have a deputant listed, and also be aware that there's an item A. Do we take them together?
I need to find the person. You don't mind.
Nahom?
Yes, Councillor, thank you.
Yes.
We have a call-in user I'd like to identify before proceeding, please.
Okay.
Call-in user 416778. I'm unmuting your mic. Please identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is Carly Pope. I am a landscape architectural technician with Brody & Associates Landscape Architects.
And are you listed to speak on item TE 22.6 or 310 Dundas Street East?
That's correct.
Okay. We're not currently at that item, so we'll come back to you. Returning to item 4, one moment, please. We have 4 and 4A. Do we take them together because they're two different speakers?
Oh, it's okay. It's just one. It's just one speaker.
Okay. No, I see. Okay. So we have one deputant listed, Judy Tersigny from Menkes. Members, I will ask you to please note that there's a supplementary report attached to this item as well. Is Jude with us?
Yes, they are. They've been granted audio privileges. They just need to connect their mic and they'll be able to speak on their item.
Hello, Jude. Can you please connect your microphone so we can hear you?
They're now connected. I will be unmuting their mic.
Oh,
Hello.
hello.
Hi, is this Jude?
Hi, Councillor. Yeah, this is.
Okay, thank you for joining us today, Jude. I'm going to give you 5 minutes.
I won't need it, Councillor. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm just here to answer any questions should they arise. I obviously work for Menkes Developments and obviously have been working with staff tirelessly for several years now to bring this process to fruition. So I'm just, we obviously have read the staff report and are just here to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of the deputant? Uh-oh, hang on. I haven't got quorum visible. Councillor Layton, did you just step out for 1 second? Councillor Bradford, Councillor Matlow? There's Councillor Bradford. Okay. And Councillor Layton. Thank you. I need to be able to see quorum. Okay. Were there any questions for the deputant? No? Seeing none? Okay. Are there any questions of staff? No? Seeing none? Okay. Councillor Cressy had to step out for a minute, so I'm going to hold the vote on this item. I hope he says he should be back in about 20 minutes, and so we'll hold the vote on this item for now. How do I want to do this? The next item is also Councillor Cressy's. There is a deputant, but I'd rather that he were able to hear the deputant. So we're going to go to item TE 22.6, request for fence exemption at 310 Dundas Street East. We have the one deputant, Carly Brody. Carly, are you with us?
Good morning. Thank you, Councillor. I'm here to answer any questions that the council may have, as well as that. I've been working with Toronto Community Housing to put together a proposed fence for the property of 310 Dundas Street East, just to enhance the security of the property and assist the ground level retail with maintaining secure and safe property standards.
Okay. Are there any questions of the deputant? Seeing none, are there questions? Councillor Wong Tam, do you have a question of the deputant?
Yeah, just very quickly. Carly, thank you so much for joining us today, and I appreciate that you have been working hard at designing a fence for this property. Just to clarify, although I think it is described in the report, but we can go into further detail using your eloquent architectural language. Can you just describe the materiality of the fence? Because I think fences can be functional, but they should also be beautiful, and in some cases they can be sculptural and beautiful. So if you can just give us a description of the fencing material, that would be helpful for me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor. The fence is going to be manufactured by a company called Dufferin Iron. So it will be made of polyester powder-coated galvanized steel posts, painted black. So this is going to be very similar in the character that we see further up on Sherborne. It will be a little bit taller than the adjacent property to the north of 310 Dundas Street East, but it will match that sort of materiality and aesthetic. We are doing this in concert with a future architectural facade update to the building. That timeline is to be determined. However, this fence is meant to sort of blend in with the architectural character of the neighborhood, while still being quite functional, preventing climbing and litter accumulation and other safety concerns.
Okay, fantastic, Carly. That's the end of my questions. That was extremely helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of the deputant? No, seeing none. Carly, thank you for your assistance today. Are there any questions of staff? No. Councillor Wong Tam.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move staff recommendation number 2, and that is to grant the fence exemption. I want to thank the city staff for producing this report that's before us today, but I also like to thank staff in my own office, as well as the community stakeholders who have been with us on several community safety walks. We recognize that the challenges in the area are such that are not going to be resolved tomorrow. However, what we'd like to do is ensure that any type of physical enhancements to any public buildings, and that's what this is a TCHC senior facility, senior building. What we want to do is make sure that those physical enhancements are going to be, of course, complementary to the existing architecture, complementary to the existing streetscape design, as well as, of course, as I mentioned, functional. And it should be said that my staff have worked incredibly hard with both TCHC as well as the Cabbagetown South Residents Association. We also did this work in concert with 51 Division, so we want to give a hat tip to the officers who were with us on several community safety walks as we sat through, as well as further deliberated how can we ensure public safety while being able to balance the needs of those who are, of course, living at risk. And I think that this is a elegant proposal, and I recognize that TCHC is also working with my office and my team as we rethink the entire corner. And this, of course, includes all of the TCHC buildings within the area, but certainly around Sherbourne and Dundas. We have significant work that's going to be coming forward very shortly, and I want to thank Councillor Bailao. I know that she's aware of the conversations we've had with the TCHC staff on how to revitalize the entire block, starting right there at Sherbourne and Dundas. And of course, this is very exciting work, but this is still an interim step to what will be a longer vision of revitalizing the area, which we hope to be doing with staff, with reports coming back very shortly. So thank you to everyone, and special thanks to Tyler Johnson in my office, who've done a lot of work with the community, and Zara Manaz. They've done an exceptional job of fielding every single phone call, every single email from the community as they try to resolve these issues with our team inside Ward 13. So thank you to all.
Thank you. Any questions of the mover? Seeing none. Anyone else to speak? No. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. That takes us to TE 22.7, application to remove a private tree, 84 Medland Crescent. I have a deputant listed, Jeff. Jeff McCormick, are you with us, Jeff?
Yes, I am. I hope everyone can hear me okay.
I certainly can. Jeff, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Start whenever you're ready.
Excellent. And good morning, councillors and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm going to keep my comments very brief, but I do appreciate the opportunity to voice my request. So my family of four, we live at 84 Medland Crescent. We're in Ward 4. We're a semi-detached home that we bought close to 15 years ago. Over the years, we've made numerous environmental upgrades to the house. I have one of the first cool roofs that was installed in the High Park area on my home. I converted my front lawn to a xeriscape garden. I've removed the concrete pad in the back of my yard to make it impervious materials. I planted a city street tree. So when I come to you, I don't make this request. I don't take this request lightly that we have to replace this tree. It is a Norway spruce that it's located in the backyard of my property. And for too many years now, this spruce has been causing financial damages and severely restricted the use of our backyard living space. And it's now impacting the well-being of my children and my neighbors, which was identified this summer. Before I speak, just quickly, the tree, as I mentioned, is in the backyard. My backyard is very small. It's only about 12 by 20 feet. And the canopy of this Norway spruce covers approximately about 50% of the backyard. So I have 4 points I just want to make quickly about why I need to request replacement of this tree. The roots are currently causing extensive property damage to my neighbor's rear driveway at 86 Medland Crescent. And I have to fix this driveway for my neighbors, but we can't undertake this project until the tree problem is addressed. Also, every year the tree produces a large cone set. I estimate approximately about 1,000 cones are produced across the top third of this tree. The cones are currently producing a massive, and they've been doing this actually for years, a massive amount of sap. This sap is permanently damaging any furniture that you put out in the backyard, any fixtures, toys have been damaged, and it is impacting vehicles in my property and to my surrounding neighbors. So this is creating some conflicts, as was identified this summer when I spoke to forestry, and it's presenting the last couple of years financial damages to me because I have to rectify the sap damage that's occurring to my neighbors' properties. And as I mentioned in my small backyard, the sap has basically made most of my backyard completely unusable to my young children and dog. Sap gets in their clothing, it gets on their toys, it gets in their hair and fur. Basically, it's not a safe environment where they can play, and this was especially evident and important this past summer, given our COVID pandemic. I didn't really have anywhere else to put my children because of the sap. Last, I've done everything I can, but I can't mitigate the damages the sap is causing. It's impossible for a spruce, and I hope forestry or anybody could back me up. You just can't trim and maintain evergreens. I wish you could, but you just can't. So it's just not economically feasible or prudent to try to rectify this sap situation. I can't cover my property. I can't cover my neighbor's property to protect them from the sap. And I should note the sap issue is basically goes on from May into September. So what I'm coming to you, I want to replace this Norway spruce. I want to replace it with a native coniferous tree. I've selected a Freeman maple. I've shared these details with my neighbors. I have their approvals. There's no objections to planting this tree and in the proposed location. And just to repeat, this is not a frivolous request. I'm a strong advocate for trees through my work as an environmental planner and my personal life. I fully understand and support the tree bylaw for the City of Toronto. I think exceptions need to be made. This tree is negatively impacting my family and my neighbors. It's not suitable for this dense urban environment, and it definitely doesn't belong in this location. So I hope you'll give thoughtful consideration to my request. We're desperate to replace this tree and remedy this difficult situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Jeff? No? Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. Okay. There are no other deputants. I have a question of urban forestry staff. Who do we have here from urban forestry?
Hi there, Nick Trevison with Urban Forestry TPPR.
Hi, Nick. So listening to the deputant, I heard what I thought were two issues. One issue was the cones and the sap, and the other issue was damage from the roots. Let's take them one at a time. Does our tree bylaw say that, if a tree is dropping leaves or needles or fruit or sap or whatever, that is a reason to remove the tree?
So through the chair, no, the property bylaw does not provide a mechanism to allow for removal for reasons of nuisance.
Okay. Secondly, there was an assertion made that the roots are causing damage. Did staff go and investigate this?
So yeah, we had staff attend the site. We did observe some heaving of asphalt driveway that in our view could be remedied through a number of different means. The roots, if not too big, could be pruned and the driveway resurfaced. Under certain circumstances, you could mitigate the root injury by shaving down a small portion of the diameter of the root, again, to allow for the resurfacing of the driveway. Thirdly, you could top up remove the existing asphalt driveway, top up with additional base material. I'm not sure what the grades are on the neighbor's driveway, but that's an option too, where you top it up so as to preserve the roots and resurface the driveway that way.
Okay. And you observed the tree is healthy and doing well and expected to live?
Yeah, we observed the tree to be healthy and maintainable.
Okay. Thank you. And your recommendation is that we deny the application?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Any other questions of staff? No? I'm going to be moving to accept the staff recommendation, which is to deny the permit to remove it. I understand the issues with cones and sap falling, but we have people who want to remove trees because of leaves falling. We have people who want to remove trees because of nuts falling. All trees, create these kinds of issues, and if we start making exemptions based on that, then we basically throw out the tree bylaw and we have no protection. Similarly, there is a way to mitigate the issues caused by the roots that sounds reasonable to me. So based on that, I'll be accepting the staff advice moving the staff advice, which is to deny the tree removal permit. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, item TE 22.8, non-residential demolition application 3434 Dundas Street West. I have two deputants listed. First, George Millis. George, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Hi, George. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Please start whenever you're ready.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. So primarily I'm here just to answer any questions that might arise. Our application is requesting consideration to demolish an existing building at 3434 Dundas. Runnymede Healthcare is a member of the community and making a positive contribution to the neighborhood, and we thank you for this opportunity. The demolition currently is commercial and owned by Runnymede Health Center, and we intend the intended use is a medical clinic for the benefit of the community. We have a demolition permit application submitted. We do have urban forestry approval, and we are requesting to demolish the building, which is currently in an aged stage. The building does not beautify the area. In fact, it is subject to squatters and vandalism and graffiti. We would abide by all beautification requirements from the city. And I thank you for the consideration.
Thank you. I have a question. When you say you would abide by all beautification requirements, you have the report with you? Are you familiar with?
I have the report.
Are you familiar with?
I have the application.
Okay.
Yes, there were 3 options.
Yes. Are you familiar with the requirements in option 2?
Yes.
Construct fences, all debris removed, sod be laid, any holes properly backfilled with clean fill. That's acceptable to you?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions for George? No? Thank you very much, George.
Thank you.
Next, I have Jim Ilkay. Jim, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning,
thank you, everyone. Yeah, Jim Ilkay with Innovia Corp. We're project managers for Runnymede Healthcare on a couple of projects, including this one. And I think George has covered the topic fairly well. Again, if there were additional questions, I'd be helpful to answer them. I did just want to reiterate that Runnymede has been a part of the community for a very long time. The hospital started operating from their site at Runnymede and Dundas in 1945. In 2009, a new hospital was opened, and it's a high-quality facility, always very well maintained, with attractive public spaces. We are starting construction on a new long-term care home, a 200-bed long-term care facility. It is also built at the Runnymede Healthcare site at Runnymede and Dundas, which is just down the street from this one. That also is a high-quality facility with publicly accessible open space. This new clinic that's being proposed at 3434 Dundas, you would just look to the things that Runnymede's been doing in the neighborhood to get a sense of what to expect there as well. I just want to assure everyone that we don't intend to leave it as a vacant lot. There are plans underway. We're working on programming and, of course, making sure the necessary funding is available. All of that takes a bit of time. We want to make sure that we're not distracting the hospital's resources at this time. If we can demolish the site and clean it up and have it presentable in the community, that's just less of a distraction for the hospital while we work on future plans for the clinic. And that's all I've had to say.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of Jim? Seeing none. Any questions of staff? No. I'm going to move option 2, which is to approve the application. And you can see if we could, no, that's not option 2 there. Oh, yes, it is. Okay, there we go. It's been renumbered as 1. So I'm going to move this motion that's on their screens now, members. You can just take a look. Okay. Any questions or other speakers? Seeing none. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Okay. Councillor Cressy, are you available now?
Sorry about that, Chair.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to finish off your items. So on TE 22.4, which is Lakeshore Friedland Cooper, we had heard all the deputants and done any questions. So do you want to just move that? Or do you have any motions?
Yes, thank you. And my office was monitoring that as I stepped away for a moment, and thank you to the deputant. I'm prepared to move the staff recommendations here.
Okay. Are there recommendations in the supplementary? No? Just the staff recommendations? All those in favor? And to receive the supplementary. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Okay. That'll take us to item 22.5, which is 1 through 7 Yonge Street, draft plan of subdivision, final report. I have a deputant listed, Jason Park. Jason, are you with us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Hi, Jason. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to share your wisdom with us. Start whenever you're ready.
Great. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of council. My name is Jason Park. I'm with the law firm Divine Park LLP. We're counsel for the applicant landowner Pinnacle International. We've had an opportunity to review the report, and we support the recommendations in the report, and we thank staff for their efforts in bringing this to a conclusion. Subject to any comments that any of the council members may have, those are all my submissions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the deputant? Seeing none, that was the only deputant I had listed. Are there questions of staff? Seeing none, Councillor Cressy, floor is yours.
Well, thank you, and I will move the staff recommendations. What's before us is the draft line subdivision. This is one of the many projects that former Deputy Mayor McConnell helped to champion and lead, with a whole series of city building elements contained in the one Yonge precinct. And so I'm happy to move the recommendations in front of us.
Okay. Any questions of the mover? Anyone else to speak? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Councillor Bailao, are you ready to deal with 2211, which is the Sterling and Bloor application? Okay.
I am, Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Just to confirm with staff, so this is a preliminary report for the application that we received, and you've identified a list of issues that we have with the application, correct?
Have we got planning staff? Just wait one more minute.
Mr. Chairman, Dan Nicholson from Community Planning.
Hi, Dan.
Have I issued the application?
Okay. Can you expand on some of the issues that you've identified?
Mr. Chair, the issues include overall height, massing, potential shadow impacts to the north and the west are the key issues at this point.
Okay. And so what you're saying in the report is that based on these issues and the application as it is today, it's not supportable by planning. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So this report is asking us to have a community meeting and to initiate this process to see if we can shape this application in a different way to become to be considered by council in a positive light. But as it stands today, if there's no changes, your recommendation would be to not support the application, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. But you do recognize that this is an area that is under a lot of development pressure, very well served by transit. We're currently undergoing a planning study in the area. So we're working with the community because we do understand the development pressure and the changes that are coming. But these changes need to respond to our official plan and to good planning principles, correct?
Absolutely. The study you mentioned, Councillor, is a critical part of responding to development applications in the area, including this application. Staff certainly acknowledge that the site is an appropriate location for a substantial redevelopment. There will be a substantial building on this site, but we do have some issues to work through, as I noted in the report, and we are looking to the study. And of course, we are looking for applicants, including the applicant on this site, to work with us through that study to shape future development in the area.
Okay. Thank you. Looking forward to working with the community and planning to see if we can do anything with this, but I fully agree with the and Mr. Chair, I'm now in my speaking remarks, if you don't mind. I'm already going into my speaking remarks. I do want to emphasize I think the community and myself agree with the points that planning raises. I think that everybody understands this is an area under a lot of development pressure, and we do expect development in the area, but there are serious concerns with this application, and at this point in time, it's definitely something that we would not be able to support. Obviously, this is the beginning of the process for this application, and there'll be this community meeting that staff is asking for in here, and a few others. We're hoping that the developer is open to listen to the community, to change its application, to considerably alter what is in front of us today. That's how I think the community is approaching this. But at this point in time, I think that we want to endorse staff's list of concerns and endorse its position. So I move staff recommendations on this preliminary report.
Thank you very much. Any questions of the mover? Seeing none. Anyone else to speak? No. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now we will go to TE 22.9, non-residential demolition application 439 Vaughan Road. I have one deputant listed, Roman. Roman, are you with us?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, I am.
Hi, Roman. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Please start whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief. My name is Roman Sopp. I'm a planner with KFA Architects and Planners. We represent the landowner who is proposing to redevelop the property with 8 new dwellings. We have reviewed the staff report that has been provided to council, and we have had communications with Councillor Matlow's office, and we respectfully request that motion or recommendation number 3 be approved, which recommends that the application be approved or the demolition be approved without any conditions. We have committed, or the owner has committed, to providing the councillor's office with updates on a monthly basis regarding the status of securing building permits and any other major milestones in the project. And should we not be able to secure those permits within a year, we are committed to backfilling the site and maintaining it in good order in accordance with Municipal Code Chapter 62910. That is it.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the mover? Or the deputant, sorry. Seeing none, thank you very much, Roman, for your remarks today. Those are the only deputants I have listed. Are there any questions of staff? Seeing none, Councillor Matlow, the floor is yours.
I move option 3, which supports the agreement between the residents and the property owner.
Okay, any questions of the mover? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Next, item TE 22.15, we have one deputant listed, Robert Stambula. Robert, are you with us?
Hello, Chair.
Okay, I don't believe Robert's with us, but we don't, members,
sorry,
this may shock
Chair.
you at 10:30, but this is our last item. So we're just going to have to proceed anyway. Are there any
Councillor
questions of staff?
Councillor Perks, the speaker has connected. They
Oh,
just need to connect
okay.
their audio.
Just connected now. Okay, thank you. Robert, welcome. We're going to give you 5 minutes as soon as you're ready. Fortis, are we okay here?
One moment, Chair. I'm trying to communicate with the speaker.
Okay, thank you. We'll give you a moment. Take your time. We've been going at a breakneck pace. We need a little rest.
I see the speaker has connected their audio. I am now unmuting their mic.
Sorry for the misstep at the start. Good morning, everyone.
Is this Robert?
I'm happy to hear so. Yes.
Hi, Robert. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Please start whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, everyone. I'm happy to be here so soon. But I'm a little less happy to be speaking on this issue again. I made a submission in writing to the committee, which in a short recap is the following. Our neighborhood, Harvard Village, which is Bloor, College, Bathurst, and Spadina, has literally no obstructions in our sidewalks. Of over 200 light posts, I think there is one that encroaches on a sidewalk 3/4 of its diameter. Of all the fire hydrants, there are 2 fire hydrants. Our sidewalks are less obstructive than commercial main streets that you clear already. And for some issues that recur time and time again, we would say the following. Our sidewalks are wide enough. They're wider than the minimum to clear. That if parked cars is really an obstruction, and I don't think it is, but if there are concerns about that, only half the sides of our street, there's only parking on one side of the street. The other side of the street is clear of vehicles. I included a picture, though, that shows parking, typical parking in the wintertime, which has people park a foot or 18 inches or 2 from the curb because they can't get any closer, showing the separation from vehicles from the curb of the sidewalk. And indeed, if it persists to be a worry or concern, we suggest a bylaw that says you cannot park within a certain distance of a curb to allow for sidewalk clearing, as opposed to the summertime when a car has to be parked within a certain distance of a curb. So that problem is easily reckoned. So I don't know whether our situation is typical or not of the other neighborhoods in the excluded zone, but I would add a couple of things that aren't in my report. One is that even with the expanded pilot, there is not a pilot in the old city Toronto neighborhoods or what is in TO core. So I hope transportation is broad enough of a flavor of the excluded zone to actually not come back in the spring and say, oh, now we need to learn about the old city, the old downtown neighborhoods. If the other neighborhoods are like ours, you're incurring no problems. But we don't know, and we were disappointed not to be included in the expanded pilot. We offered to be. I will be hosting transportation services as soon as I'm out of isolation. I had an exposure. I'm well, but we'll be having a visit together sometime soon, I hope. But my last comment, and I missed any of the earlier material, would be to the report that I read earlier that was filed on your website, that again reiterated kind of the storyline from Transportation Services was that they're doing the pilot and they will report further in the spring. I understood when they learned I understood City Council's motion was to come to this committee with a plan on how they would do the full clearing of sidewalks next year. I would encourage the committee to ask Transportation Services to do it now. That's what they were asked to do. We could have all received the same report from Transportation Services in December that was filed on the committee site for this meeting in December, because there was nothing new added, and it was deferred because there wasn't enough time for Transportation Services to report to this committee. I'm a retired public servant. I appreciate that. But there was little done with the extra time, and I fear we're just in the process of further delay. I hope I'm wrong. As I said, I'm a retired public servant. It's usually evident when a bureaucracy is doing something to challenge and to make progress and to accomplish something, as opposed to delaying and obfuscating. I fear we're seeing the latter and not the former. I hope I'm wrong. That's my time. That's my comments for today. Thank you very much, members. Please keep well. Be careful. And I'm happy, of course, to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the deputy? Seeing none, thank you very much. Are there any questions of staff?
Thank you all.
Councillor Wong-Tam.
Thank you very much. And through you to staff.
Councillor Wong-Tam, if you could get closer to your microphone.
Okay, sure. With respect to the pilot project and the pilot area, much of the downtown neighborhoods are not included, as the previous speaker has just spoken about. And yet I see that many of our downtown areas do have commercial buildings that have been successfully clearing the sidewalk of their areas. So therefore, we see them taking their snowplows out, they've got a maintenance crew, and they've somehow successfully use mechanical equipment to clear their sidewalks. Why is it that the City of Toronto is not able to clear the same sidewalks, generally the same sidewalk widths, as the commercial property owners in the core? And can we not try to expand the pilot project this year to do what the commercial property owners are already doing on the same sidewalk conditions?
Through the chair, this is Vincent Sferrazza from Transportation Services. With respect to the councillor's questions, I can't answer how the commercial establishments that the councillor references have been clearing their snow. I'm not aware of how they've been doing it. I don't know if they've been using actual mechanical means, whether it be a snow blower or whether it be an actual tractor, which we were using. So I can't speak on behalf of the commercial establishments that the councillor references. However, I can say this with respect to our trial. The trial is utilizing the most recent state-of-the-art of equipment when it comes to clearing narrow sidewalks within a municipality. It is the most narrow piece of tractor available in the marketplace, and we purchased 9 machines, and each of the machines can clear on a single day approximately 12 to 15 kilometers of sidewalks. So each machine undertakes 2 days of winter activity. We have covered the areas where there are a concentration of those individuals who are on our disabled program. So that was one of the criteria that we selected. And we also selected areas where, in fact, we do know there are obstacles, there are encroachments, there's on-street parking. So we actually selected areas that have significant challenges to them to assess the feasibility of the machine. So we have 9 machines. Each machine can handle about, as I said, 12 to 15 kilometers, which we do during the day. And we believe that that information will give us the robust analysis that we need, that we can then make a decision to council or recommendation to council. I just
Thank
want to
you,
say
Vince.
one more thing, if I may. We are also doing an inventory of all the kilometers of sidewalks that are currently not receiving mechanical sidewalk clearing. So the 1,000 to 1,300 kilometers of sidewalks that currently do not receive mechanical winter service are being analyzed, are being assessed, and put into a database so that we totally do understand what are the issues with each sidewalk, whether it be in the old downtown Toronto area, whether it be an area in Etobicoke or in North York. We are undertaking a complete inventory of every sidewalk and trying to recognize what in fact the challenges are with those specific areas.
Vince, thank you very much for that very robust answer. Coming back to my question
Councillor
regarding...
Wong-Tam, I'm not running your clock. You
yeah.
can take your time as much as you need.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vince, I just want to go back to my question about commercial properties, and I would even say residential properties. That means condominiums on streets, for example, like Beverly or John Street, which I'm very familiar with, as well as other streets where we see high-rise condominiums or mid-rise condominiums, which are residential. They are sandwiched right against neighborhoods that have house forms on the same street, and yet we see those buildings clearing the snow outside of their condominiums, not with a shovel, so it's not manual clearing, but they have snow clearing equipment where their maintenance crews will come up. We see this on Bay Street, we see this on Maitland, we see this on Homewood, just about everywhere you can, where you have high-rise, mid-rise buildings sandwiched between low-rise house forms. And they are managing, those residential and commercial buildings are managing to clear their sidewalks with mechanical equipment. So I'm just really curious to how is it that other entities can do that work manually with the equipment that is on the market today, and somehow the City of Toronto cannot. Can you help me square that one, please?
So through the councillor, through the chair to the councillor. So once again, we did a market research of what is the most recent tractor mechanical equipment, because that's what the city has been utilizing with respect to mechanical sidewalk clearing. These are essentially tractors. And we did a market research to undertake exactly where there is equipment that can essentially navigate the more narrow streets where we currently cannot provide mechanical clearing of sidewalks. So we specifically are looking at the tractor form of equipment. Having said that, if the sidewalk trials equipment that we are using does not still be able to navigate some of the narrow areas of the city, then we will come back to council, committee and council, and essentially provide other suggestions, whether it be manual clearing, whether it be some other form of a machine. But right now, the trial is to utilize tractors type equipment, which we have been using across the city to mechanically clear sidewalks, essentially to simulate the experience that other parts of the city do receive mechanical clearing. We haven't been using snow blowers or other forms of mechanical clearing. It's strictly to look at the tractors. And that's what we'll come back to committee and council to see if in fact that is a viable option or whether we should consider some other form of mechanical clearing.
Thank you very much,
Vince,
Mr.
thank
Strada.
you. Yeah. Can I ask one more question, Mr. Chair?
Of course.
I'll try to do it very quickly, Vince. Even though the clock is not running, I just want to be respectful of this community council's time. If right now you are saying that there is no mechanical option on the marketplace for more narrow sidewalks, and yet I see property owners with their equipment, clearing sidewalks. And I used to represent Rosedale and Summerhill, and some of these communities have very narrow sidewalks. Some of them don't even have any sidewalks, but they have somehow managed to hire landscaping, snow removal companies that provide some type of maintenance, because not everybody's going out there with their shovels, but they have been able to contract somebody to clear their sidewalks, because I assure you they're not doing it themselves. But they use mechanical equipment on the marketplace. So I guess my question to you is, how is it that some can do it, some cannot, meaning the private property owners, some of them can do it, provide the mechanical clearing or through a third-party company, the city cannot. And then what do you plan to do with this information that you're collecting? And the reason being is because if there is no viable option, according to your research, for any mechanical clearing of narrow downtown or narrow sidewalks across the city, are you proposing in 2022 that you're coming back with a permanent solution to do manual clearing if there's no pilot whatsoever with mechanical clearing sidewalks? Is that the intention of your report? Is that where you're going to go when you report back in spring 2021?
Through the chair. So perhaps I should be a bit more specific when I reference mechanical. And as I said, we are testing mechanical tractors, tractor trailers. That is exactly what we are testing. There may be, as you suggested, Councillor, another mechanical form, whether that be a snow blower, but we specifically are only using the latest mechanical tractor equipment, which we were able to procure through our market research. It is a machine that we purchased in 2019. So it is the most updated machine that we were able to research to find that we could test. With respect to your second question, our information will be included in a committee report that we will be providing to Committee and Council in the spring of 2021. And it will provide our analysis and recommendations on how to proceed with the approximately 1,000 kilometers of sidewalks that currently do not receive mechanical sidewalk winter maintenance. So it will give you the results of the test, but also provide Committee and Council with both an operational and cost-benefit analysis of various options. What those options are at this moment, unfortunately, I'm not in a position to tell you, but we are prepared to come forward with various options.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vince. And
Thank
just
you.
so you know, I wasn't speaking about snow blowing. They were tractor equipment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wong-Tam. And I'd be happy to do a second round, but I'm going to move on to Councillor Bailao now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to follow up on your last answer, Vincent. So the report in the spring of 2021 will give us the results, but it will give us an operational plan for 2021-2022. Is that for the entire area that currently doesn't have sidewalk snow clearing? Is that correct?
It will, through the chair, it will provide the results of the test and will provide an operational plan moving forward. We still have to ascertain what impacts that would have on the budgets, both capital and operating, but they would have a approach or direction for moving forward.
And with a report in the spring, and that plan, will one of the options be an operational plan for the season of 2021-2022? Will you have enough time from the spring to that fall to bring us a plan, council give you direction, and operationalize a plan that will see the old city of Toronto having sidewalk snow removal next season? If so, if council so wishes to give you that direction in the spring.
Right. So we'd have to factor in some of the logistical issues in terms of ordering and procuring new equipment. So for instance, for these 9 pieces of equipment that we are using, it took 1 year for us to order, to receive and customize these pieces of equipment. So it may be from a timing perspective, a bit of a challenge to order any new equipment if that is the direction that we recommend, simply because of the timelines that are involved to procure this type of machinery. And then there would also be staffing impacts that we'd have to factor in as well. So I can't give you a definitive answer whether it will include 21-22 season, but there are some logistical challenges to try to get machinery, equipment, and staffing in within a specific timeline.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? I might have a few if no one else is ready. So Vince, thank you very much for that. As usual, your answers were very elaborate and thorough. I've heard you say that you've done some testing with this equipment. Have you found that there are some circumstances in Toronto East York Community Council area where this equipment would work?
So, through the chair. So, yes, we did start the trial in February of 2020. Unfortunately, we actually did not get that much snow in February and March of last year. And we did a few trials. We have done a few in December. And we have found, just based on those moments that we've gone out, that yes, it may in fact be feasible where in fact the machine can navigate certain areas.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I want to do this one step at a time. I know that you've got a lot of information in your mind, but I have to parse it at my pace. Okay, so you found that it may be feasible in some circumstances. Next, you also said that you're doing an inventory of streets in the city of Toronto, Toronto East York Community Council, and you're creating a database. Has that inventory work begun?
Yes, it has begun.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So in that, are you keeping track of the areas that would conform to the description of areas that your pilot has so far found this equipment would be feasible on? Have you done that?
Yes, that is the intent.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you've said that it takes about a year to procure and train and do all of that. Now, a year from now, it will be winter. A year from the spring, it will not be winter. So if we as members of this community council had advice for the city to make sure that you started procuring some equipment, not the whole thing, but some equipment so that we could bring it in midwinter next year. Given that you've told me that this equipment could work in some areas and you're starting to catalog areas that match that, wouldn't it be wise to get you to do some procurement now so that we could have something for 21-22's winter rather than to wait for the spring?
So through the chair. So while it may be successful to navigate certain areas, we still don't have all the results if in fact these machines are the right machines for all winter conditions. We have yet to test this machine in a snow accumulation of anything beyond 6 to 8 centimeters. We haven't yet received enough snow accumulation beyond 10 centimeters to truly determine if in fact this machine can handle all type of weather conditions. So while it may be able to physically navigate certain areas, we are still trying to ascertain if this is the right machine that can in fact clear the snow under all various winter conditions. And this city has experienced rather large snow winter activities in the area of 10, 15, 20, even 30 centimeters of snow. And one of the areas that we're finding, or one of the issues we're finding, is actually the power unit. Is it actually strong enough to move and clear the snow? That is one of the concerns that my staff have already come back and expressed to me.
Okay.
Is in fact, will we be able to do that?
Okay, thank you. Are there any other members who have questions on this item? Councillor Layton.
Yes, please. Thank you very much, Councillor Perks. And I think you raise an interesting line of questioning about the time it takes to procure equipment like this. Vince, so the first time we make procurements, it typically takes a little bit longer than in subsequent times, right? When we are procuring something for the first time, does it typically take longer than when we're procuring the same equipment a second time around?
The timeline of a procurement could be affected by many issues. One of the things about this particular machine is that it does have to be customized, which does take the manufacturer a little bit more time to essentially manufacture for us and get to us. So there are a whole host of reasons why it takes longer. It may take a little bit shorter, it may not. I'm sorry, I won't be able to answer that question.
Okay, well, because you're going to leave us not much of a choice, but to start asking you to procure the devices for next year, because it sounds like we haven't left us enough time to achieve what council had directed, and that's to ensure that we have a full clearing of all sidewalks by the 2021-2022 season. So if I may ask, and if you can't answer this, I appreciate that, because you're not Patch-a-Lock, where you're not from the procurement side. If we issued a procurement, do we have the ability, like an RFP, do we have the ability to sort of put a hold on it until a certain time, that if once we get the results of the pilot, let's say in the springtime?
That's an excellent question, Councillor. I would have to ask our colleagues in purchasing to see if in fact we can begin at least maybe some of the components of a procurement, to see if in fact we can be in a quicker state. But again, I'm sorry, I won't be able to answer that question. But okay, I could ask and see if in fact there's some steps that we could start to take sooner than later.
Well, I do hope Gord's working on a motion, because if not, then the wheels are starting to turn in my head that I might be able to put one forward. But I've got a couple more questions just really quickly. The report says it takes approximately 13 hours to accomplish one full round of snow clearing in the pilot area. That's 2 days, right?
So with respect to that 13 hours, that's an actually reference to our existing contractor sidewalk program. With respect to our testing machine, it's taking our staff approximately 8 to 10 hours to complete 13 to 15 kilometers. And that's because, again, it is a smaller unit, it has less horsepower, and they're trying not to generate any property damage. The contractor equipment, which is larger, which has more horsepower, and the drivers and the contractors are more accustomed to the routes, are able to do more within that timeline.
Sure. And we certainly don't want to push our staff to damage property. But so it takes about, I think I heard earlier, 2 days to cover the pilot area, correct?
Right, correct, yes.
Now, so one of the major issues that has propelled this to the front of our agenda, of our minds in recent years, has been that the accumulation of snow after several days, when it doesn't disappear because of warmer weather, is a major problem. So is there a reason why we're only plowing for 2 days, and instead not saying taking a third, fourth day to go through neighborhoods that may or may not have been cleared, or may not be part of the pilot project, to try to generate more data perhaps, or cover more ground?
So through the councillor, through the chair. So as I say in the report, last year we went out 24 times to do sidewalks. And for the majority of those events, we were able to clear the snow within a day to 2 days, and then the weather did improve. So our plan to undertake a beat within 2 days is based on the fact that, yes, the weather, in fact, does improve, and that there isn't much snow to clear up the third day. I'm not saying that that happens all the time. You're absolutely correct, Councillor, in saying that there are there are events where the weather may in fact be colder, that there still could be snow on the third day. But for the most part, the weather has improved. There isn't as much snow. And it is a trial. As you said, we are collecting data. And the trial areas is sufficient for us to assess the feasibility of these machines.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bradford.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. I will be brief. Just wanted to pick up on a couple questions that were asked by some of my colleagues. Good to see you, Vince. I wanted to talk about the equipment that we're trialing and demoing right now. And you flagged that one of the issues that your staff are identifying right now are challenges with the power platform and making sure that this has the heft to get through those sort of, I don't know if you call them like 5-year storms or something where we're getting a 10-inch dumping or whatever. But then you also mentioned that this is not off-the-shelf equipment and that there is some customization. We're specifying the specifications that would be a made in Toronto solution. So how different is this versus an off-the-shelf product that you could go and order from a catalog? Or is it pretty standard for transportation services when purchasing equipment to make specifications and modifications to something out of a book or a catalog?
Through the chair, to the councillor, it's not unusual for us to make specifications that are particular to the City of Toronto. We do that for our street sweeping program, and we do that for others. So in this particular case, yes, we do have to request specifications that are unique, that as a result takes time to fabricate and manufacture.
And that would be the same with our streetcars or our buses. Correct. Or leaf collection or, the waste bins that we have. We always have a specified made in Toronto sort of product that we roll out on our streets here. Is that common and typical in other municipalities of 2 million, 3 million people?
Yes, it is common for a municipality of comparable to us to require that the equipment be modified, be customized to address very specific concerns or issues that are indigenous to that municipality, that are exclusive to that municipality.
So I think we're hearing two things. You're hearing basically, I think unanimous concern from my colleagues here at TUYCC that we're not going to have this in place for next year as we've committed to and council directed. And I'm hearing from you that there are challenges with procurement, and absolutely lots of bureaucracy here, and procurement is a difficult and challenging process for all of us at the best of times. Have we looked at other municipalities, and your staff are coming back saying, oh, we haven't had this big snow event yet. We're not sure if this thing has enough juice to push through 10, 15 inches. But what about looking at the specs on the equipment that they are using in Calgary or Edmonton? Maybe they have a different urban form. So let's look at something that's super challenging. Let's look at Boston, Massachusetts and all of their tight streets, or Hartford, Connecticut, or parts of Halifax, like Ottawa. Have we gone out and said, you actually need a whatever horsepower motor or X amount of watts on something electric or whatever to get the job done? And we could actually save some time rather than waiting for the 15-inch snow emergency event here. We just say, that's what they're doing in Boston or Edmonton or whatever. And that's what would work here.
Sure. Yeah, so in 2019, we conducted a jurisdictional review of municipalities across North America. And what we found is that, in fact, Toronto is unique when it comes to sidewalk winter maintenance. The municipalities that you just referenced do not do sidewalk winter maintenance. New York, Chicago do not. Calgary does not. In Ontario, Toronto, and Ottawa were the two municipalities that do sidewalk winter maintenance. And so we have looked at what's happening in Ottawa, and we've taken some of the experiences from them as we proceeded on our trial. So we did the review, and based on what we found, there's very limited examples out there that the city of Toronto could utilize to see if in fact there's any lessons learned.
And so you referenced two in Ontario, and then you made note that Calgary doesn't do it. I don't want to go through the whole list of every municipality in the country, but there's really no other places. Montreal, Quebec City, Halifax, Fredericton, stuff where we could kind of lift the specifications there and try and expedite this program. I think there's just a lot of frustration that you're hearing here, that here we are another year later and this procurement cycle and this study never seems to end. And yet I think the outcome that we want, the downtown sidewalks plowed, is pretty clear. So
Right.
How can we tighten that up and get to that outcome? And what resources or information do you and your team need to make that happen?
Well, I appreciate the frustration, absolutely. And that's why we did start the trial in February of 2020. Unfortunately, the weather conditions did not allow us to test the machines under various winter events. That's why we felt that in order for us to be providing you with evidence-based recommendations based on responsible analysis, we had to continue to do the trial for this year. I will work with my colleagues in purchasing to see if in fact there are opportunities where we are able to accelerate the procurement process, to see if in fact we're able to shave off some time where we'll be able to come back to committee and council with some recommendations. But with respect to other jurisdictional examples, Toronto is somewhat unique when it comes to sidewalk winter maintenance and the variety of conditions that exist within the city of Toronto when it comes to the various types of sidewalks and all the issues associated with it.
Okay, I appreciate your help with that, Vince. Thanks. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Any others? Councillor Fletcher. We're going to wear you down, Vince. We're going to wear you right down.
Vince is going to go out and buy his own fleet of small plows and start doing our sidewalk. I've had a few emails that say thank you very much. There are folks that are worried about the amount of salt that is being used in some of the plows that are on the road. And I've seen the videos of the salt spinning out after it goes along the sidewalk. And I would have to agree with them. There is an excessive amount of salt. So could you please let me know how you're managing that? Because we shouldn't be adding more salt where we don't need salt.
So through the chair, that's an excellent question, Councillor, and that's actually one of the unique features of the sidewalk machines. The older machines for sidewalks essentially just have gravity-fed salt application, where essentially the salt is put in a hopper in the back, and based on how quickly the equipment is operating, gravity just takes the salt down. These new machines, we're actually seeing if in fact there can be controlled mechanisms to actually control the amount of salt that is applied on the sidewalk. Not unlike what we have with our road salting machines, where you have spinners, and those are calibrated, and they are essentially engineered to apply specific amount of salt based on the calibration. It's incumbent upon us to ensure that calibration does not get impaired, does not get affected. So we have to inspect those spinners to make sure that in fact they don't get out of calibration. And I have instructed my staff to do that more often. I have, to be honest with you, since I've come on board in the last year and a half, one of the changes I'm trying to make is actually that, having staff do more inspection of the salting application machines. But that's actually one of the things we're looking at in these new sidewalk machines. It's not just a plow. It has actually a salting application in the back. And we're seeing if in fact how we can control that. So I'm glad you raised that question.
Yeah, I do have some video for you if you'd like it.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Thank you.
Basically,
please.
The sidewalk was white from the plow. That took up the snow, which was white, and it left behind enough salt that the sidewalk really remained white. So I think it's quite a serious situation and whatever. Is there anything you can do now to recalibrate those gravity-fed machines, Vince?
The gravity-fed machines do not have that control mechanism, unfortunately. But I'll see if, in fact, we could perhaps apply some form of system or application, or at least the driver of the unit pays specific attention to how much salt is being applied in these testing years. But I would certainly be interested in seeing that trial. Absolutely. I mean, sorry, that video that you have.
Is that the same ones that we've been using for years in other parts of the city? Those machines in the same, are those machines that I have pictures of, the same machines that have been used in North York or Etobicoke over the years?
Yes, the sidewalk mechanical winter maintenance contracts have been in effect since 2015. So the machines haven't been replaced. They are amortized over the term of the agreement, which is 7 years. So it would likely be the same machine that was used throughout the term of the agreement.
So that amount of salt is being dropped everywhere then?
That I don't know. I don't know if this is an isolated incident, but it would be something I would certainly
I think
looking
it's
at.
the machine. I think it's the machine you're describing, because we can see the salt being spewed. Thank you very much. I'll send you a picture or two. Great.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? To speak?
May I speak?
Councillor Matlow.
I have a motion, Mr. Chair, which is, I don't see it on the screen yet, but essentially it's a request for a budget briefing note to complete the harmonization for the upcoming year. The motion that we approved at council puts it in order for Toronto and East York Community Council to request the budget briefing note, given that that it was written in a way that the item was sent to this community council. The motion also asked for, to paraphrase it, I don't have it in front of me, but essentially to find ways to expedite the process, along with providing a path forward to full harmonization. So what you heard Vince talk about earlier was what they're intending to do, which is to provide that path in the spring. That being said, though, if we want to procure anything, if we want to be able to have the equipment, staff, whatever we need to be able to actually expedite this, we're going to need money from the budget, undoubtedly, for this coming year. I don't want to see us wait till the spring and then miss out on this budget cycle for us to be able to have access to, even a liberal estimate of funds to be able to pay for the resources we need. I know I was chatting with Barbara Gray yesterday about this, and we were sort of both joking about how unfortunate it is that we haven't had more snow for the pilot, ironically, because the snow would be helpful to test it. That being said, though, there's no doubt that there's a very good possibility that between now and the budget process, there very well could be snow in Toronto. So it doesn't mean that we won't have opportunities to test out the machinery between now and then as well, and that's just something to keep in mind. I'll just finish by saying that, I know that I've spoken to some of you. I can hear it from all of you. We all share the same goals and frustrations. We all want our city streets and sidewalks, along with our park paths and bike lanes, to be safe and accessible. No winter has been more important than before, when we are reliant on walking for our physical and mental health, given that we're not going to movie theaters, we're not going to shows, we're not doing much of anything other than walking, that our sidewalks be safe and accessible. And it really only takes one property owner, sometimes one house, and sometimes even an entire apartment complex or institution, to not clear their snow for it to be impassable or dangerous. So, I want to express my appreciation to Barbara Gray and Vince and their team for the work they've been doing. But I share everyone's frustration that it hasn't been happening fast enough. We would have liked everything to be done years ago when we first started asking for this. I do acknowledge that we've made remarkable progress between then and now, but we do need funds in the budget to be able to move forward for next year if we have an opportunity to do so.
Councillor Matlow, I'm going to move a motion that all the snow from all the rinks that are being cleared be delivered to Midtown so your pilot can be more successful.
I would rule that out of order, Councillor Fletcher. Are there any questions?
I don't think I
of the
can
mover?
support the motion, but I support your sense of humor.
Questions of the mover? No? Anyone else to speak? Councillor Wong-Tam, I saw your hand. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I do have a motion, and the clerk can please put that on the screen. The motion is fairly straightforward, I believe. We're asking Vince, I apologize, Vince, I know you've been working and struggling to try to harmonize snow removal across the city, but we're going to ask you to reconsider the pilot project in the area of snow removal for 2021, expecting perhaps the large snowfall coming soon, but to include wards 13, wards 10, and any other downtown neighborhoods not captured in the existing trial pilot area. And to bring back in your report that's due in spring 2021, all operational and financial considerations that would allow us to expand the mechanical and manual plowing of sidewalks, multi-use trails, park pathways to ensure that we can meet the accessibilities of Ontarians with Disabilities Act on a more permanent basis in the future. And Vince, I just want to say to the director, thank you very much for all your ongoing work. I recognize that you probably are hearing from a bunch of frustrated councillors who represent a number of frustrated constituents on why is it that this is not being done sooner and perhaps more widespread. And I just want to cite that, you know, in the downtown areas, which we are constantly hearing that the sidewalks are not wide enough, or we have cars parked on one side, and I recognize that is a reality that transportation service is operating within. But there's another concurrent reality that I'm seeing and other residents are seeing is that there are the same sidewalks that are narrow, they are being actively plowed and cleared by other mechanical equipment that somehow private property owners and maintenance companies and landscape companies have secured. So I do not know if it's the top of the line equipment, but you know, very quickly I Googled snow clearing, and I know this might sound rather simplistic, but I Googled snow clearing on narrow spaces, and I get a company called Ventrac that pops up on the screen. I'm sure there are probably some mechanical issues that won't necessarily work for the City of Toronto, but at first glance, first pass, I see narrow snow removal mechanical equipment. And I know that there are probably other companies there that are comparable that provide some of this equipment. So the question for us in the core of the city is, how is it that some of our neighbors are able to procure and purchase snow removal mechanical equipment, and then others cannot? And some of this equipment is measuring the width of 34 inches. And some of it is 48 inches. So it's sitting anywhere between 0.8 meters and 1.2 meters, which seems to fall well within the minimum criteria of sidewalk clearing equipment. So I hope, Vince, that we don't get left further behind. I think Councillor Matlow's motion is a very good one. We're all trying to recognize that there are certain limitations through the public procurement process, but as we evaluate and pull information, and I recognize you're collecting that data through the 2021 cycle, it very well may mean that the core of the city and neighborhoods outside the core of the city with narrow sidewalks, we will be left behind again for another year. It's not our first year, it's multiple years now. We will be left behind again by the time you come back with a report that tells us we need to do some further studying, or perhaps manual removal is not sufficient, or we don't have the budget allocations to get this done. And then we're all of a sudden looking into 2022, 2023, 2024, and so forth. So that is unacceptable to our constituents. I believe it's unacceptable to Torontonians because you're creating a two-tier system within the city. Not to mention, of course, the final point, which is the big one, is that we need to be able to meet some criteria with the Accessibilities for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. COVID has taught us we've already locked people inside their homes. We told them to stay home, but for some individuals, they didn't need to be told to stay home, especially during the winter months. They cannot leave their house because it's physically unsafe for them to leave their houses and their homes. So for a number of years now, when it comes to the seasonal winter effect in Toronto, seniors, people who are pushing strollers, people requiring the use of mobility devices, people carrying heavy parcels, the frail, the elderly, the sick, they can't leave their homes anyways for several months of the year. So it's not just that the pandemic for them, we've done that to them. There was no pandemic that locked them in their houses before. We did that to them because we didn't provide clear, accessible, safe passage on sidewalks, on multi-use trails, and on park pathways. So thank you very much for this work in advance.
Thank you. I'm going to add a couple comments. I'll be supporting both of the motions that are in front of us. I hear what staff are saying in terms of the timing and in terms of the inability to have tested this equipment to the fullest extent yet. I completely understand that. But I also hear what Councillor Wong Tam is saying, which is that the current service we provide is an inequitable service. It does not provide adequate clearing of sidewalks for people with disabilities, people with mobility challenges, and people pushing strollers. And I will tell you, as someone who had at one point in his life a 2.5-year-old and twin 6-month-olds and no driver's license, that that's an unacceptable and intolerable condition. So I've heard that it takes up to a year to get the equipment, I see it, Councillor Layton, to get the equipment organized. And I know that it's a tremendous challenge to get the pilot to answer all the questions. But here's the thing. If we really meant to do this, we could, for example, take one of these plows up to Owen Sound in the snow belt and just see how much snow it can move, how much depth of snow it can move. We could do that. We haven't. If we're concerned about the unique geography of the City of Toronto, because we have some narrow sidewalks, some wide sidewalks, we could look at what they do at Quebec City, whose geography is even more complex than ours. It's an older city and has narrower sidewalks than ours, and yet they clear sidewalks. There is work we could choose to do. And I appreciate that city staff are stretched to the limit. But council has repeatedly given staff direction to go and find out how to do this. And if they don't have enough resources to find out how to do it right now, perhaps the briefing note that Councillor Matlow has asked for could include some suggestions about what additional resources they would have to do to further test the market, to further review what happens in other municipalities, to further test this machine. I mean, goodness me, we can certainly put 10 feet of snow down somewhere and have this plow try to push it. We could do that if we had sufficient staff time and resources. And if you need more, starting next Thursday, you can ask for it. Finally, just to be clear, it's unusual that Toronto East York Community Council would be making a request directly to the Budget Committee. And I want to confirm for everyone on the committee, I've checked this with the clerk and the city solicitor, because City Council referred this item here and not to the Budget Committee and not to the Infrastructure and Environment Committee, effectively, City Council has empowered us to make this request of the Budget Committee and to make these policy decisions. So, with that, I believe, Councillor Layton next. Thank you.
That's a fascinating procedural, like for everyone watching, I'm sure it's not that interesting, but that's actually fascinating how that worked. I think anyone who wishes to get a briefing, who wishes to ensure that a briefing note's done for the budget committee, Councillor Bradford helps me out on a regular basis getting briefing notes passed, but they don't all pass. So if you're interested in getting one passed, find a committee that's has carriage of an item or an issue and try to get a briefing note that way. I do have a motion. I have a motion that asks the Chief General Manager of Transportation Services in consultation with the Chief Purchasing Officer to report back to its meeting on February 24th, 2021 on approaches to accelerating the procurement process for mechanical snow clearing equipment sufficient to clear snow on residential streets to the same standard across the city to be procured in time for the 21-22 winter season. I also, and Councillor Matlow has been so gracious as to accept as a friendly amendment a tiny addition to his motion that asks to put an equity lens on within the briefing note that goes to the briefing the budget committee. And I'll thank. I was channeling my inner Councillor Wong Tam in ensuring that, as well as the deputation and advice from Robert, who spoke earlier today, who's a resident of mine. You know, I've often been confused as to why some streets north of the Danforth and some streets south of the Danforth are treated differently vis-a-vis snow clearing. I appreciate there may be an anomaly of a particularly narrow sidewalk, or when the hydro posts are within the sidewalk right of way rather than on the front lawn. But to be honest, most streets are the same, and the new plow is more narrow and does work. We have situations in now Ward 11 where even old plowing technology was working fine, and particularly in front of schools where there was parking as well. I think that if we are, and this has been going on for a couple of years now, if we are going to be serious about bringing the same level of service to everyone across the city, which, given that we all pay the same tax rate, we should be getting that same level of service. And it's either, like, we have two choices. Either we reduce the level of service that we're providing in other parts of the city, or we increase the level of service we're providing in other parts of the city. And that it's not just snow clearing. Like, I think that this should be across the board. Just as we plan, and there's been greater expansion of community services in the outer suburbs or inner suburbs that didn't get the same level of investment in the 20, 30, 50 years leading up to amalgamation. I think the same is true for the downtown and midtown areas that deserve that same level of service. And while it wasn't 40 years ago, as it was for Councillor Perks, it was just in the last couple of years that I've struggled with the same thing. Being a family that doesn't own a car, we rely on walking, transit, and cycling. And when it's that snowy out, and when your kids are that young, you're not cycling quite yet, or many aren't, and therefore you're using a lot of sidewalks. You're using a lot of public transit. So I've come to value the accessibility of our transit stations, the accessibility of the new vehicles. It's impossible. And I'm sure Councillor Perks can vouch for this because he lives on a streetcar line. It's almost impossible to lift a double stroller up onto one of those old transit vehicles. Almost impossible. So I think that this is like a necessary step and investment that we're going to have to make. Now, there will be a cost associated, I'm sure. And when it comes back, we're going to have to evaluate that and demonstrate to our fellow councillors across the city that this is a necessary investment. And it's not folks in the downtown area complaining. It's about delivering a level of accessibility in our city and a level of fairness in the way that we implement services that doesn't currently exist. And with that, I'll table those motions and we can move forward.
Who's next? Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to plows that are petite and can get around our small streets and won't have so much salt. And I did want to answer Councillor Layton's question about why why were streets north of the Danforth that actually didn't meet the criteria being cleaned, and the ones south of the Danforth, like Monarch Park, which has a boulevard, weren't being cleaned? And it was actually just a staff decision that it was about cleaning an area and not leaving the area. And the advocacy, because East York always had its sidewalks clean, the section of the Danforth, north of the Danforth, in the wards that were created, has a sliver that's the old city of Toronto and was not being plowed. So that got incorporated into the East York plowing contract. But I asked so many times, if you have criteria, why are those not being applied to streets directly south of the Danforth, such as Monarch Park, which meets the criteria south of the Danforth, but not north of the Danforth? So finally, with all of this advocacy for many years, and I just want to thank all of the community and all of the councillors for this advocacy, that we will now have a harmonized approach to street cleaning across the whole city. So if someday it ends, it will end for everybody, not just not be there for us in the old city of Toronto. Thank you very much, everybody, and I look forward to a good vote.
Okay. Members, are you comfortable taking all the motions in the item together? Yes? Why don't we record this? I think, so we'll record the vote, just adopt the item as amended? Yeah. So on all the item together, councillors, please raise your hand if you're in favor. I have Councillor Wong Tam, Councillor Matlow, Councillor Fletcher, Councillor Bailao, Councillor Cressy, Councillor Layton, and myself in the chair. So that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Members, I think that takes us to the bills. Hang on a second.
Meeting on record.
Well, especially since we spent an hour on one item, right? I should warn you that the staff informed me next month is going to be quite a heavy meeting. Okay, I'm just going to read it out because it's quicker this way. That Toronto East York Community Council pass and declare as bylaws bills 6 to 13 and 16 to 17 prepared for the January 12th, 2021 meeting 22 of the Community Council. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And that Toronto East York Community Council pass and declare as a bylaw a confirmatory bill to confirm the legislative proceedings of the Toronto East York Community Council acting under delegated authority at meeting 22 of the January 12th, 2021. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Members, that concludes our business. Well done. We're finished by lunch.